Thank you for coming. I hope you're in the right room. This is the Sysinternals talk. I'm Aaron Margosis. And how many of you are here for the Sysinternals talk? How many of you have entered the wrong room by accident? Okay, so most of you. So if we had to take a vote, I guess we'll go ahead and do the presentation. Could have skipped it and said, sorry, wrong room. So, Sysinternals. I'd like to assume everyone knows what the Sysinternals tools are, but let's not just assume that, because assuming leads to bad things. Sysinternals tools are a set of over 70 diagnostic and troubleshooting tools written by Mark Russinovich and Bryce Cogswell. We acquired the company that they created back in 2006. They just hit the 20-year mark last year. The tools are now no longer third-party. They are part of Windows. They are Microsoft Windows Sysinternals Tools, because we have to prepend lots of names and registered trademarks and things to everything. We have end-user license agreements because we have lawyers and things like that. Mark and Bryce founded the company, and then they got acquired, like I said, in 2006. And they signed this contract with Microsoft to stay around for a little while, you know? So Mark has stuck around for a while. He is now the Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft Azure. Bryce Cogswell joined Microsoft as part of the acquisition. And the first thing he did was write an application that counted down the number of seconds remaining until the 4 years was up. Bryce has retired, so Mark is the Sysinternals guy. He has started allowing other people to contribute code. Some of the tools that are in the set now have some additional names on them besides just his and Bryce's. If you want to know all about the Sysinternals tools, the place to go is the book. Well, this was the book. In 2011, I co-authored with Mark. You can see on the screen, even on the big screen, it's a little difficult, but you can see Mark's name quite clearly. In case you can't see it even on the big screen, I am the co-author of this book with Mark. It was, in 2011, the comprehensive, all-encompassing official guide to the Sysinternals tools. We documented every single tool, broken apart by different groups, so the security tools in one chapter, et cetera. Process Explorer, Process Monitor, and Autoruns, the biggest and most widely used tools, got their own chapter. It also includes some material at the beginning, Windows core concepts, things that are not very well explained about Windows that are really useful when troubleshooting on the Windows platform. And finally, how many of you have ever seen Mark Russinovich deliver Case of the Unexplained? So he delivered it yesterday. Did anybody go to that yesterday? And a lot of you didn't. Just curious, why not? So I wasn't able to go. He got really upset, so he actually left. He's no longer in Orlando because he was so upset with me. I'm sure something else came up too. So anyway, Case of the Unexplained is a talk that he's been delivering for a long, long time, where he talks about troubleshooting cases, real-world troubleshooting cases that either he's run into or friends or just people emailing him. Here's some troubleshooting case we ran into, and here's how we solved it using the Sysinternals tools. The end of the book has a whole section on Case of the Unexplained, taking some of those and showing real-world cases where the tools helped. And you can follow along, and if you run into things that are similar, you can hopefully solve problems too. So this was 2011. At the time, it was accurate and complete. It's still all accurate, but it's no longer complete because new tools have come along. There are new tools that didn't exist when we wrote the first book. There are a bunch of features added. In fact, the book was already out of date by the time it was available for sale because he did a major upgrade to Process Explorer after the book came out, but before print edition hit the stores. So I swore I'd never do it again, but here it is. So about a year ago, it came out just after Ignite last year. we came out with a second edition. And this time we retitled it because Sysinternals Administrator's Reference kind of narrowed the audience a bit too much. This is just, if you need to do any troubleshooting on the Windows platform, these are the tools you want, and this is how to do it. We went into a lot more detail in some areas. So for example, process monitor. In the first book, we talked about you can save it in the native format, or you can save it as XML. And that's all we said about it. You can save it as XML. This book documents the XML schema that you can save process monitor traces in, and actually has 2 Case the Unexplained cases that make use of that and programmatically manipulate the XML to derive information and results that you can't get just by looking at the GUI tool. ProcDump has grown to the point where it's an entire chapter unto itself. There's new tools, Sysmon and PSPing. Everything is up to date. There's Case the Unexplained is way, way bigger. And I must say, this book makes a great gift. Buy lots of them, give them to anybody you want. So for some reason, I don't know why, I did not ask for this. But you see what they did? They shrunk his name. Bring him down to my level. So, these are the tools. And this is a talk about the Sysinternals Tools. There are, including a native 64-bit versions, there are 100 some odd in here. But if we eliminate the native 64-bit versions and just look at the regular ones, there's still about 70, 77 tools in here. So I figure, let's go light. We'll do 5 minutes on each of them. And you saw on the board when you came in, this is a triple session. So this session goes until 9 o'clock tonight. We'll take a 5-minute break at 8:30. No, I'm sorry, 8 o'clock, 5-minute break. The doors have been locked, you can't leave. Thanks for coming, here we go. So look, we're not gonna get through all of them, obviously. If you have any requests, go up to a microphone and say, I'd really like to see a demo of this tool, because I don't want anyone to leave here unsatisfied that they didn't find out about the tool they came to hear about. Okay? So this microphone's just going up. So the title of this session is The Sysinternals Tools Make You Better at Your Job. And that's a little bit of hyperbole, obviously, because if your job doesn't involve the Windows platform, we can't do a lot for you. Does anybody here still use Windows? Hardly anybody. I don't know why you came. This stuff does not work on iPhone. Okay. So I'm just going to go through and do stuff. Does that sound good? So that's pretty much the end of the slides. I got a couple more, but this is just, I'm just going to do stuff. And you let me know if you have any questions, shout them out or go to the microphone. Requests, quite welcome. So the way the tools make you better at your job depends on what it is you need to do. So first of all, I'm going to talk about one tool that I use every day, and that's Zoom It. How many of you have heard of Zoom It or use it? Okay, oh, quite a few of you. Do you present or you just use it on your own desktop? Say again? You use it to present. It was designed as a presentation tool. Let me just show you things you can do with Zoom It. So this is the configuration dialog. You can configure it with, I never change the defaults except for one thing, and that's here. Run Zoom It when Windows starts. So when I log on, it's always running. So I can do things like if this is too small, I can zoom in. Okay, you can zoom in way too far if you want. You can also annotate the screen. So you can draw squares and arrows and ellipses And you can change the colors, so you can make some of it in one color and some in another. For me, the main thing is, I'm getting old, my eyesight's going, I zoom in all the time just to see what's on the screen. So for that alone, even when I'm not presenting, it's really worthwhile. You can also, by the way, you can add text and put text anywhere on the screen. And once you've done all this, if you want to send this to somebody, press Control-C to copy. It copies to the clipboard. Okay, so then you go into, I was going to do Paint, but now I'm thinking of doing Paint 3D, but that might be a little risky for a demo. Okay, so now I've got the annotated screenshot. I can now copy, paste this somewhere. You can press Control-S and save this as a PNG file anywhere you need also. So you can zoom in, annotate, etc. I find this very, very useful. It helps me do my job better. Any questions about Zoom It? Anything you wanted to see about Zoom It? Anybody? I can't see through the lights very well, so you have to shout really loud.
Span screens.
Span screens. It does not do that. It zooms one screen, one display. So, and I can't demo it anyway because I only have one screen. Nice try. Sorry. Live, yes, yes, live Zoom. So that was static Zoom or dead Zoom. What is it called? Zoom. Okay, so just regular Zoom mode. There's live Zoom mode where you zoom in and you can still interact with the screen. Okay? Don't take my word for it. Might not be compatible with all video drivers and external monitors, apparently. Hold on. Shoot, this is doing this backwards. There you go, see? Can you see that? No, too much glare. You can't see through the glare, can you? Everybody, okay, just come on up, one at a time. Black screen, beautiful. Okay, it did work for those of you who insist on looking at the monitor. Okay. More questions about Zoom It before I move on. Okay. Makes you better at your job. What's your job? Do you have any friends? Do you have any family? You're a techie, and you have friends or family. Maybe not friends. You've got family. So your number one job tends to be, can you call your mother more often? And while you're here, can you take a look at our computer, right? The number one tool for solving problems on friends and family's computers is auto runs. You know, this isn't, there's other tools that come in a lot of times, but the number one thing that they run into is something got on their computer. They downloaded something on their computer, and they don't know how it got there, but it's doing something. Typically, those unwanted things will embed themselves using some auto start extensibility point. Some place to hook into Windows where every time you log on, it runs. Every time you start a browser, it runs. So how do you find all those auto start extensibility points, or ASEPs, as we call them? Auto runs is a Sysinternals tool that enumerates, I don't know how many anymore, tons and tons of places that Windows allows extensibility. And then you can do things about them, as I will do in just a moment here. So I ran this, and I've got an option turned on. Actually, yes, I do. Okay. It breaks everything down into categories. So here's everything. So all the auto start extensibility points enumerated. The ones just for logon, or the things that happen just at logon, are broken out into a separate category. Hooks into Windows Explorer, into Internet Explorer, scheduled tasks, services, drivers, and a number of other categories. But the Everything tab just collects all of them together in one place. And for each of these, it'll show you where in the system it's hooked in. So let's find a good example here. HK Local Machine Software, WOW 6432 node. This is 32-bit part of the registry on the 64-bit system. Microsoft Windows current version run. So everyone knows, many of you, I assume, know about the run key. It's been there since Windows 95, right? When you log on, Explorer will run things. It'll enumerate the contents of this registry key and run things from there. So in this case, I've got this thing from Microsoft Corporation internal use only. So this is an MSIT Microsoft internal. It's trusted on my machine because this is a domain joined machine, and they have me trust the internal certs that aren't published elsewhere. So for each of these, it shows the name, it shows the description, which is pulled from the file itself, the publisher, and in this case, I've got verified. So what happened here is I've got this scan option turned on, verify code signatures. This is a really, really valuable setting to have. What this does is when it identifies a file, it checks to see, is this thing signed, and by whom? And so it can tell you if it's signed and there's something wrong with the signature, or if something is not signed at all. So this is not on by default. When I ran the scan, I have verified code signatures, so everything that's signed is going to show up as verified. Let's hide. I can't hide those. I'll come back to hiding some more things in just a moment. It shows the path, either in the file system or the registry or elsewhere, and when the thing was last modified. So things you can do from here. This thing here, this MSIT thing, which constantly causes me problems. I won't tell you what we call this thing internally, because I will get in trouble. But let me show you. So you can go here, and from here you can jump to the image, which is where the thing lives in the file system. So you can see where it is, where the context is, it's in program data, et cetera. Why do they put programs in program data? I don't know. You can jump to entry. This time, instead of going to where the file is, it goes to where it's configured as an auto start extensibility point. In this case, this is in the registry. It's going to drive regedit and go to that location under local machine software, WOW 6432 node, Microsoft Windows current version run. By the way, has anybody noticed this before? This is new in regedit. I don't know when they put this in, but you can now type the path of a registry key and it can go to it. So that's pretty cool. That's not a Sysinternals thing, so don't applaud. Save it for the, so here, if I delete this and hit enter, it takes me to that location. That's a useful tip. Another thing I can do here is I decide, you know what, I don't want this thing running anymore. I want to take this thing out. There's two ways to do that. One is to delete it, and one is to disable it. So if I delete it, if I go here and hit delete, it will go into the registry and delete that registry value out. Okay, so the next time I reboot, that thing will no longer be hooked into run unless some malware is monitoring that key and sticking a value back in there, which does happen. The other option, though, is to disable it. Okay, so now it's not going to run anymore. How does that work? If I right-click and jump to entry, you'll see the run key is now empty. Autoruns has created a subkey called autoruns disabled and copied the content into there. So that way, if I need to, I can enable it again. Because if you delete something and it turns out you really needed that, there's no easy way to get it back. So I check it, refresh regedit, and you'll see it's now in the run key. But I'm going to leave that disabled because it really is shit, is what it is. So auto run's disabled. Now, why does that work? Because when Windows Explorer processes the run key, it's looking at the values in that key. It's not looking. They
actually typed it. They typed shit.
Oh no, that's not what I said though. We'll edit this. Thank you. So seriously, come on, pay attention. This is not funny. There's no jokes here. So when Explorer is processing the content of the run key, it's looking at the values within that key. It does not process or know anything about any subkeys. So autoruns can create a subkey and copy the content there. Autoruns is aware of it, and so you can use autoruns to put it back up in the run key. So that's pretty useful. I like that feature a lot. Gets rid of stuff like that. Okay. So another really cool thing that was added not terribly long ago is VirusTotal integration. How many of you are familiar with VirusTotal? VirusTotal, okay, quite a few. VirusTotal is a web service. You go to virustotal.com and you can submit files and say, what do you know about this? VirusTotal has 50-odd antivirus engines, and it will take the file you upload and run it past all those engines and tell you the results. And so with autoruns, we can run a scan and see what VirusTotal thinks of all of them. So, scan options. I'm going to turn off verified code signatures just to speed it up a little, but we will check VirusTotal. But we're not going to submit unknown images. And while it's scanning, I'll tell you what that means. And of course, there's an end user license agreement there too. We will all read that. We all have to agree to this unanimously before we can continue. Okay, so over here, the VirusTotal column starts getting populated. You see hash submitted. So uploading these files can take a very, very long time if you upload the files. But for this service, all you really need is the hash of the file. So what autoruns does is it calculates the hash of the file, the SHA-256 hash, and sends that to VirusTotal and says, what do you know about this? Have you seen this before? VirusTotal takes the hash and says, have we seen a file with that hash before? If so, it'll report it. And as you can see here, all the files that I've submitted hashes for on this screen are showing 0 of 54, 0 of 57, 0 of 64, 1 of 64. Microsoft Windows, Windows Mail, there is an antivirus engine which says this is a problem. So this is in one of the active setup keys, the 32-bit active setup. There's a setup for Windows Mail, and we can just click on that link, open up the default browser. Oh, this is new. I might be a robot. Oh, jeez. I need zoom. Hold on, I got to zoom it. That's a car, right? What happened? Oh, it's doing it twice. Okay, did I get that one already? Oh, it's changing the image.
Yeah. You gotta keep on going until there's no cars left.
This. Okay. Okay, so I hope I do that for every demo that I ever do in my entire life. Okay, so here we are on the VirusTotal page. We can see that there is an antivirus engine called Cylance, which says this thing is unsafe. Adware, Avast, AVG, ClamAV, all these others, Endgame, McAfee, all of them think Windows Mail is perfectly safe for all purposes, but Cylance knows better, and they say unsafe. You can click here and see additional information that it detects. So yes, just by uploading the hash, it was able to see, yes, this is WinMail from file version 15063, which is that 1703? Should be. Better be. Anyway, so that's VirusTotal. And so this is a great way to find problems. Now here's one that's unknown. This is CS, Legacy Virtual Smart Card Removal Tool. It's a VBS file. It's task schedule. Legacy Virtual, oh, this is MSIT again. I know them. Okay. Okay, but this is a lot of stuff. So we can hide all that by saying hide VirusTotal clean entries. So everything that has a 0 out of, where there's nothing that VirusTotal is running that is seeing a problem, we can say just hide all those entries. And then we see there's some file not found. Yeah, this is kind of a bug in autoruns. File not found, all signed. So yeah, so this is PowerShell.exe, and then so what autoruns is doing is identifying this as the actual piece of code, which is a mistake, but because I think it's looking for the script rather than PowerShell. So it tries to, when you have a program that hosts other things, like run DLL32, you don't want to scan, if you've got a bunch of entries that is run DLL32, this DLL, run DLL32, that DLL, you don't want to scan run DLL32 every single time. The thing you care about is what is it trying to run, what's it trying to load. And so that it'll look at the DLL, it'll look at the target of a hosting process. And in this case, PowerShell.exe, we can assume it's good. What we want to find out is the script that it's running, is that good? And it is not identifying the script correctly. What is the actual script? This is a weird PowerShell command line. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, the unknown entries are, oh yeah, okay, so Sysinternals, Process Explorer is unknown. What that means is the hash of that file was uploaded, and VirusTotal had never seen it before. So they just say unknown. If you want additional detail, you need to upload the file. Okay? The reason this one's unknown is because this is a recent internal build, and so it's never been uploaded to VirusTotal. You can do that here. I'll go ahead and do it this one time. Submit to VirusTotal. Okay, it'll submit, and then 5 minutes down the road or something like that, we should have a result after it runs a scan past all those entries. I'm not going to wait around for that to happen, though. Scanning file. Oh, you know what? No, scanning file. Let's click on that link. I'm still not, apparently it's not concerned about me being a robot this time. Okay, so it's queued for scanning. Please wait until the analysis starts. So you can actually go to the web and see the process as it goes through all that. So with these types of things, you can analyze the system very quickly and see a lot of the commodity crap that lands on your friends and family's workstations and solve those problems fairly easily. I've used this to remove malware from friends and family systems lots of times. It's my #1 go-to for those environments. Any questions about autoruns?
Export the data?
Export the data, sure. You can save it as an ARN, and this is a proprietary binary file format. You can also save it out as text. I'll do that instead. Drop it in documents, sure. Oh, I took documents out of my list here. Documents. So yes, you can save it in text format, or if you save it as ARN, the proprietary binary file format, you can then open it again in auto runs, and it'll have all the information that you saw. So yes, that's a useful thing. And okay, as long as we're on that topic, it has a command line form where you can say run this thing elevated, export to an output file, so you can do auto runs -a output to an ARN file, and optionally verify signatures as part of that too. So you can automate the use of this. I'll briefly talk about auto runs C. This is the command line version of auto runs. Oh wait, I didn't want to run it. I really just want to show the command line. So autorun C, command line version, you can specify which categories you want to cover, or all of them. So -a* gets everything. You can output as CSV or tab delimited CSV. You can include file hashes, exclude Microsoft entries, verify digital signatures, query virus total. You can do all that from the command line and get text output. I use that quite often. When I'm analyzing a host system like a server or something like that, I'll look to see, is anything hooked in here that shouldn't be? Verify signatures, verify hashes, save it as tab delimited text, save it into an Excel sheet, and then I can do sorting and filtering there and find interesting stuff very quickly. By the way, did anybody just notice what I just did here? Have you seen this in Windows 10? This has been there since 1507, the first version. Alt-Enter now takes a console window, whether CMD or PowerShell. Alt-Enter, full screen. How many of you were not aware of that before? Okay, do any of you use command line tools? Because, yeah, is this good? I use it all the time. I can't stand going back to versions of Windows before 10 just because of this. And I'm a stockholder, so there's that. Okay, so more questions about autoruns or autorun C? Compare. Ooh. I haven't done that in a long time. Yes. There is a compare feature. Let me see. So, quick demo. Unhide the virus total, clean. Save. Save it this way. Saving the scan. Please don't take too long. Shoot. So you save one scan. Maybe I'll just talk through it in case this doesn't complete in a reasonable amount of time. You save an ARN file. You save another one after changes have been made to the system. Maybe you create a baseline, and then after a while, after a month of running the system, it's done. Great. You save another scan. So maybe this gets enabled, and save after. And then you should be able to compare the two and see all the differences. And I haven't done this in a while, so hopefully Mark hasn't introduced any new bugs for me to run into while I'm running this. That's always enjoyable. Let's see. So while that's going on, other things. Oh, let me just do a quick. While that's going on, -CT, no banner. Okay, it finished, and so, but I have to do this now. Just do it really quick. We'll do category services. Where's services? Help. Anybody see services? Start. Yes. Okay. So tab delimited, just those, and file hashes, and output that to the clipboard. Okay, here's another one. Clip.exe. Have you seen this before? Anybody has seen it? How many of you have not heard of clip before? Okay, clip is another one of my favorite things in Windows other than Sysinternals Tools. This is a tool it's a command line tool. It takes standard input and copies it to the clipboard. So if you have the old clipboard utility, you can see it copied all that stuff to the clipboard. This is the output. So tab delimited, what I always like to do is take that and go to Excel, paste, format. So this is the output from autoruns C. And you can do, when you get the verified signatures and things like that, you can look for things that are not verified, et cetera. So going back to the compare, file, compare against the previous. And there's the differences. It worked. I love it when a demo actually works. So the difference, the two differences, the one difference is one entry is new and one entry is no longer there. So yes, there's a compare feature in autoruns. Okay. They did not put a timer up here. I don't want to run past 9 o'clock. So, okay. What next? So that's autoruns. Process Explorer, we did briefly touch on that. Process Explorer is the tool that shows you, here's what's running on your system right now. And it does it a whole lot better than Task Manager possibly can. For one thing, it shows you this really cool tree view that shows what process launched which other process. So this service host.exe is a child process of services.exe. And down here in all these are child processes of explorer.exe. You see the color coding as well. The color coding shows, and for those of you who saw Mark's talk, I'm sure he talked about this, but the ones in this purplish bluish color are things running in the same user account as Process Explorer. So these are all things basically running as me. The stuff in pink are services, Windows services. The cyan color are app container processes. So things running in the new modern app app container, which is a much more restrictive security context. So it brings those out and shows those. And I believe, yeah, so Microsoft Edge runs in an app container. So it is a tightly constrained process. And Explorer, this is the start menu. So if you're wondering, Explorer actually hosts the start menu. This is a modern app or universal Windows platform app. Another cool thing here are the colors don't go all the way across. And you can see here this sort of light green, light yellow, light orange. This is a heat map. And you can use that to find hotspots. So let me use this little tool that I wrote to cause problems. And I'm going to run the CPU hog. I'm going to have 4 threads running all out. So this program is designed to cause memory problems or create its own memory problems. I wrote this tool while writing the book to demonstrate different parts of what the tools do. So one thing I do here is I will just spin up 4 threads of execution and have them just run nonstop. They're CPU hogs. And you can see here the color of this green thing changed a bit. This is an 8 CPU system. And maybe if I sort by CPU, it'll help me find it faster. Yeah, this is darker here. And if I go back and change this to 6 threads, oh, Yeah, the reason it's not showing more than 25% there is because I tested out part of my demo earlier and I forgot to undo it. So let me undo that. And while I'm doing that, I'll show you that you can set process affinity here. Just leave it blank, I think. No, shoot, hold on. Right. Okay, there. Now it's dark green, 75%. So I've got 6 threads running full bore out of 8 processors on an 8 processor system. So 6 out of 8 can consume the equivalent of 75% of the available CPU, and that's what this is showing. And you can see up here, another useful part of this is this, this graph up here. If I click on that, it'll take me to this system-wide information. It's showing that I was running up to 25% of the CPU, and now I'm running close to 75. I can click Show One Graph per CPU, and you can see that the load is actually evenly spread across all the processors. And that's because, by default, it will do that. Let me just have 2 threads this time. And you can see the max it's going to hit is going to be 25%. Find that graph again. Yeah, so it's 25% spread across all the CPUs. Showing one graph per CPU, you can see that the load is evenly spread. If I go in and affinitize, some programs will do this on their own. They'll just set the processor affinity and say, I want to be tied to this one CPU. And in fact, you can do that. Let me go back in before I do that. Let me really kill this thing. I'm going to do 7 out of 8. So this is really going to hit the CPU hard. So now the system is really working hard. Wow, 90%. Mostly VertMem test, that sample program. There's something else in there that's consuming some of that. But what I can do is I can use this to take a process that has all these threads. So this thing has 7 threads that are maxing out. I can just say, look, I'm just going to limit you to executing on these 2 cores. So now that thing that was taking up the entire system is now taking up 25%. And if I show one graph per CPU, unfortunately I can't clear this, but you can see that all the CPUs except the first 2 are now running hardly anything. The first 2 are running 100%. Because all those threads are now running on just those 2 CPUs. So you can use this to get control back of a system. If you have a process that's consuming tons of CPU, you can just tie it to specific CPUs on a, obviously you have to have more than one processor to do this. But that's a pretty cool feature of Process Explorer. Another very useful feature that I always use is options run at logon. So this is you saw this in auto runs. It's because I configured this auto start extensibility point. So when I log on, it's going to run this, and it does that as a scheduled task. And by doing that, if you run this thing elevated with admin rights and then set run at logon, it creates a scheduled task that is configured for highest available. Process Explorer run with highest privileges. You can't set that unless you're running elevated. So by doing this, I can log on with UAC enabled, and Process Explorer will actually run with admin rights without my having to click a UAC prompt. So that's one way to bypass. If you're running as a member of the administrators group, you can run things this way without having to click UAC through the UAC prompt. Okay, so Questions about Process Explorer? Get rid of, so the question was, why don't we just get rid of Task Manager and use put this in there instead? Oh, yeah, there is an option where, yeah, okay, I'll demo that. The number one reason why we can't just make this the Task Manager and have Task Manager always do this is because this is going to be overwhelming for the vast majority of users out there. So Task Manager, Control-Shift-Escape. Oh, let's see, I've already got the, how do you get back to, oh, fewer details. So this is what people normally see. This is what people want to see, right? Anything more, I mean, this is going to be too much for some users. Anything more than this, is, you know, this is going to be way too much for most users. But, so I just hit Control-Shift-Escape to bring up Task Manager. If I go into Options, Replace Task Manager, and then hit Control-Shift-Escape. Well, I'm already running Process Explorer, but yeah, so it brings up a new instance of Process Explorer. And it does that with an image, I can't remember the name of the auto-start extensibility point it uses. Image file execution options? Yes, image file execution options. It's an ancient part of the registry, going back to NT31, I think. But let me exit that. So yes, you can do this yourself. You can replace Task Manager for your own purposes, but it would be a problem if we tried to do this for everybody. So that's why we don't. Oh, here's another color here. This gray means the process is suspended. You see that a lot with the Universal Windows Platform programs. When they don't have focus, they will actually be suspended and not execute. That was part of the platform design, that if it doesn't have, if it's not front and center, put it to sleep completely, and that helps save battery. So, you know, we designed a lot of that with tablets in mind and phones and things like that. More questions about Process Explorer?
If you're logged on as a domain account, when you choose Run and Log On, does it store those domain account credentials in the scheduled task?
So the question is, does it store your credentials in Task Manager or in the scheduled task? And the answer is no, it does not. It's just configured that when this user logs on, so it's not, it would only need to store credentials if it were logging you on, right? If it were logging on separately from you. But because this is configured when I log on, it doesn't need my credentials anymore, I'm already logged on. It sees that and it says, okay, go ahead and run. So it does not store credentials with that scheduled task, which is a really good question, because storing credentials in scheduled tasks is a security risk, because anything with admin rights can retrieve that information and use it even if you never log on to the system again.
So could you have it run as system and run anytime someone logs on?
So the question is, can you configure it to run as system and run whenever anybody logs on? If it were running as system, I'd have to look at that. I don't know. You certainly wouldn't want it running elevated when the user logs on. If you want to run something when anybody logs on, there's probably better places to put it, like the run HKey local machine run, something like that. But you certainly don't want things running elevated when non-admins log on.
Yeah, quick question. Hello?
Yeah.
So there's a nice feature in Task Manager where you can analyze the weight chain of a process. Is that somewhere in Process Explorer, that feature? Because that's the one thing sometimes I go to Task Manager and I think it's in the Details tab, and you analyze weight chain to see if some process is waiting for another one.
Yeah, it's not there.
It's not in process. Okay.
It's not there. There's so much stuff actually between Windows and Sysinternals where Sysinternals comes up with an idea and then Windows takes it on, like the SC utility for managing services and drivers. is largely the same as PS Service, a very old tool that Mark wrote a long, long time ago. Features of Task Manager and Process Explorer have gone sort of back and forth. Weight chain is one that is in Task Manager and not available here yet.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
I'm curious in terms of hardware interrupts, what number is too high, and are there any Sysinternal tools to help me figure out what's causing that? Because I've seen that occasionally on.
Can you repeat? I
Yeah.
can barely hear you.
Under the tree view, just under system, you've got hardware interrupts with a CPU usage and obviously no information because it's an interrupt that's coming at the hardware level. But I have seen machines where that number is at 8, 10%, which seems way too high. The machine seems problematic, and I don't know what else I can do to analyze it. Are there other tools that...
Let me show everyone what you're referring to first. Let me kill this CPU hog and go here. So what we have up at the top here are some sort of system internal processes. So the system idle process is not a real process. It's just a bookkeeping location where we keep track of CPU that's not being used. It's just waiting for something to come along. The secure system, this is actually, that's not LSA ISO, is it? Did they rename it? I'll have to get back to all of you about that one, because I've only started setting up this machine, and I don't have credential guard on here, and that's what I thought it was, but I don't think that's right. So here's the system process. This is where system threads execute, things that are started in the kernel and run strictly within the kernel. So it's all kernel drivers and work being done by kernel drivers. And then you have interrupts, which is interrupt processing. And when this number goes up, that's unusual. This should not be high, but there may be workloads where, or drivers or things that, that might drive that up. SMSS is here because it is a child process of the system process. Memory compression, I can't remember what this is, but I'll bet it's in the book. The reason I wrote the book, or I did not, the reason I co-authored the book is I needed that book for my own work because I can't remember a lot of this stuff. I look up stuff in the book all the time. This is a fairly new thing that they added. I think it's, I don't know what it's doing. I could make something up and that would suck. And this session is not allowed to suck. So, yeah, when this number is high, yeah, I'm not the person to ask about how do you debug that. I've never had to work in that space. But I just wanted to show everybody exactly what that is. Remote connect?
Yeah, can you connect to remote systems, I would imagine?
Can you connect to remote systems with Process Explorer?
Yeah.
No. It's a GUI tool. It's really not designed for automation, and it's definitely, I mean, you can, what could you do with it? Yeah, it's really not designed for remote, unless you have an interactive, like a remote desktop or something like that. Question?
So, we had it's not about Process Explorer, it's about PS Exec.
Okay.
So we used to use it a lot until Petya came out. And
so
then
what came, oh, Petya, okay.
Yeah, and then we blocked it because Petya was using PS Exec to sort of laterally move throughout the network.
Yep.
And even though it is patched, we just have it blocked. So is there like any other tool that we could possibly use?
What do you have Windows Remote Management, WinRM?
We do. We do have like other third-party remote services, but having we mainly used it because it allowed us to run command prompt from our own machine, and then user didn't have to see all that stuff, or user didn't have to like stop doing whatever work. We could just sort of work in the background. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the problem is not PS Exec directly.
Of course.
Yeah, so just to clarify for everybody, malware miscreants will use these tools for ill reasons, just because they're useful and powerful, and they help everybody do their job better, including people who should not be employed. So PSExec takes advantage. If someone's using PSExec, that means to access a remote system and manipulate things on a remote system or run programs on a remote system, it means they've got the credentials already of an account with admin rights on that remote machine. Mm-hmm. That's the problem, because once you have that, PSExec is just calling Windows APIs. It's not a magical tool, and you can do the same thing with WinRM or a variety of other things. So the problem is keeping the credentials safe and not exposing those. But when you have a particular outbreak and a particular tool is being abused, like PSExec, then yeah, that can, I can see the logic behind at least temporarily blocking it until cleanup is done. I'm sorry, repeat?
Can you show how to set up a notification if a process that you've already identified as malicious starts again later once you think you've got it shut down?
So for the recording or any remote broadcast or anything like that, it's about, are there ways of notifying when something you have shut down gets started because you think it's malicious, gets started up again? The tool I think I would point you to is Sysmon. I'm not going to demo Sysmon today because I don't have I won't have enough time for it. Sysmon is a tool that will show you tons of stuff that's going on in your system and is specifically targeted toward identifying malware that's running. It writes stuff to a special event log, which you can then forward to an event collector and analyze the data there, and fairly quickly respond once you know what you're looking for. So Sysmon is the tool I would use for that. Okay, and I still don't have a timer up here. I've got, let me see, it's almost 5 o'clock, so just 4 hours left. So I want to get to a case of the unexplained of my own. The case of the reverting office theme. So this is going to lead into Process Monitor, which is probably the #1 tool for deep dive troubleshooting of Windows systems. The problem I ran into is I was running some internal dog food version of Office 2016, and it kept reverting to the colorful theme. I prefer the white theme because you can see I've got some toolbar icons that I like to have in the quick access toolbar. It kept reverting back to the colorful theme, which is horribly misnamed because it's not colorful at all. It's monochrome. It's blue, which, okay, maybe that's colorful in a sense, but all the colors like the red and the yellow and other things in the icons are just washed out. And I wanted that. I wanted to have that back. And it kept reverting all the time, like multiple times a day, but it would take hours before it would happen. So it was really hard to get a repro of the problem. When you can reproduce a problem quickly, then you start up Process Monitor. If you think it's anything to do with the file system or the registry or anything like that, you just start up Process Monitor, cause the error to happen, to reproduce, and then look at the data and see what's happening. But if it happens once in a long while, running Process Monitor for a long time is very expensive to the system. So with that, let me start talking about Process Monitor. Which, by the way, I do want to point out, we call it Procmon. And this is a pretty cool shirt. Let me go back to this slide for just a second because I'll get this advertisement in. Skip past this. You can buy this yourself. Proceeds do go to the Seattle Humane Society. This was an invention of Chris Jackson. So the message always was from David Solomon, who was the co-author, original author, one of the original authors of the Windows Internals books, and a great speaker, public speaker on Windows Internals. He would always say, when in doubt, run Process Monitor. And Mark has been delivering that message at Case of the Unexplained for years now. And recently, Chris Jackson, who likes to think he's young and looks at the memes and things like that, thought Keep Calm was a really good one. And so he came up with this And anyway, you can get the shirt. But anyway, so just keep calm and run procmon. So let's run procmon. And let's boost the font a little bit here. And it's sticking. There we go. Make it a little more readable. So Process Monitor has a kernel driver, filter drivers that identify all the file system activity on the system, all the registry activity on the system, network, TCP and UDP events, and process events, so process start, process exit, thread start, thread exit, DLL being loaded. It analyzes all this material, and for each of these, I'm going to skip going over some of the details because you might have heard it a bunch of times already. But the thing I do want to point out is you can see here, no you can't because live zoom isn't working here. Dead zoom. So you can see here that in just that short amount of time, we've got a lot of events happening here, many of which are not being shown, but this is already over 500,000 events. It's a lot of data being collected. And it stores it by default in the virtual address space of the Process Monitor process. Okay, so that's going to build up. You run Process Monitor for hours. Has anybody ever run Process Monitor for hours? And how did your system do? What crashed? The whole computer crashed. That's not supposed to happen. But yeah, so it's collecting a lot of data, and it stores it in the virtual memory of Process Monitor. If Process Monitor crashes, all that data is gone. Okay, so that's one problem with the default configuration for a long trace is it's going to store it in the virtual memory, which takes up virtual memory and then starts writing into the page file until it's done. Process Monitor is supposed to stop itself when that happens, but by then other parts of the system might already be failing. So what I wanted to talk about are long-running traces using Process Monitor, because I wanted to see what is causing the Office apps to revert to colorful theme when I want it to stay in white theme. And I knew it was going to take a long time. I needed to run Process Monitor for a long time. So I was assuming, because Office stores its settings in the registry, I figured I want to look at registry events. And so that's what I did. So which registry events to look at? Because I don't want to look at just all registry events. But first, let me show you some of the other some of the ways we have to save long-running traces or deal with long-running traces. One is through backing files. So by default, it will it'll write to the page file. What you can do instead is say save it to a file. Procmon long running PML, right? PML? Let me browse. Let me make sure I get the, yeah, so it wants PML. The next time you start capturing a new log, so let me kill this, clear it with Control X, start it up again with Control E, and now it's backed by this backing file. And so now it's not going to consume lots of its own virtual memory. So it'll save to this backing file instead. And if that file gets too big, it creates additional logs. Where's my... You can see here that it's already grown pretty quickly. What it'll eventually do is create procmon long-running -1.pml, -2.pml, and just start consuming file system. So that's one way to deal with long-running traces without killing the system. Another way is to, let's revert back to using virtual memory. Clear, start. Okay, backed by virtual memory. Another way is through history depth. How many millions of events do you want to keep? So basically keep it in a circular queue, and when this gets up to that, it'll start dropping the older events. That can work too. But if you go for a long coffee break and come back and the event you wanted to see is already rolled off, then, so the third way, which I like to use, or which I used in this particular case, where was that? My short-term memory is gone. History depth, okay. So another way is to just say drop filtered events. And filter, drop filtered events. So anything that is filtered out is not going to be kept. So let's look at filters. What I wanted to do is I wanted to, first of all, before I can figure out what I want the trace to look like, I have to figure out what registry, what part of the registry is it where this event is happening. So I've got Excel running. Go to Process Monitor, clear that. I'm going to set a filter for process name is Excel. I can use the bullseye, but I'm going to do this in case I need to restart Excel. So if you use let me do it that way. What the heck? So drag this over process. It figures out what process owns that window and sets a filter for that process ID. So that's another cool way to set a filter. So now it's only going to show events relating to Excel. So if I start the trace, it's just Excel events and nothing else. But what I want to do is I want to look for where is it writing it. When the theme gets changed, where does that get stored? So I want just registry events, and that is event class is registry. So I'll add that in, so I'm not going to see any file system events. And most importantly, category is write. I only want to see events where something is being modified in the system. I don't want to see it reading the registry. I'm only interested in writing to the registry. So I do all that. I'm not going to start the trace yet because I'm going to first go into, get it all set up, go to options, background, colorful, and before I hit OK, I'm going to start the trace, hit OK, stop the trace, and then I look at what's there and I decide what looks like it might have something to do with the theme. And it stands out pretty quickly that this registry value is where the theme is being set. In this case, it is a D word, 4 bytes, and the value is 0 that's being written. So what I want to do now is I want a trace that looks for entries like that. So I'm going to get rid of that thing. I don't care what process it is doing it. I'm interested in, actually wait, let me edit this filter. Path is that, yeah, that's good enough. And it's a write event. Actually, let's just leave that. We'll take that out, and instead we'll highlight write events. Category is write. Okay, so now So I didn't know if it was Excel doing it. I didn't know if it was group policy preferences doing it. I didn't know if it was an Office product doing it. So I clear that out. I've got drop filtered events, and I start running this. And for some reason, I think there's a bug in here, because there should be no events in here at all if it's not showing anything. I find that sometimes just starting it over, if it's that include, filter, drop filtered events, start the trace. Okay, for some reason it's working this time. No events. There's stuff going on, the trace is on, but there's nothing happening in here unless I go in and say start Word. And I seem to have lost the, oh yeah, because it's not writing. Okay, so these are read events, so I can see Excel and Word are reading from this. And so I left it this way because I wanted to see, is anything reading from it? And eventually, what I got, and for this I need to go to the saved trace that I have. This is what I ended up with. Now these were, these first events here were where I was messing around trying to figure out what to filter on, and I left that in the trace. But then here, hours later, so I started working on this, I started this thing up around 11:20 and just watched. And then MSO Sync came along, and I was running as a different user account. That's why it shows HKey current user and this other thing. But this is 21 events collected over a period here of, I can't do this math, over 6 hours. I just left it running. And then what I was able to do here is I was able to say, okay, this one's highlighted. It's a reg set value, writing to UI theme, writing a 0 in there. I was like, okay, what's causing that? I double click on the event, go into the call stack, and because I don't have access to Office symbols, I couldn't tell. But I could take this trace and send it to the Office team and say, here's the process that's doing it. Because they'd heard about this bug, but they weren't able to get a repro of it themselves, probably because they're all just running the colorful theme. And I found that this MSO Sync was doing it periodically, and they identified where in the code, because they could look at the call stack and figure out where exactly in the code this was happening and fix the bug. And so a few days later, I had a new version, just deployed like everybody else got, that had the bug fixed. So, and that's not the end of the story. So this was running for 6 hours and collected 21 events. It was like no impact to my system at all. I accidentally left it running for 3 days. And it did not cause any problems at all. Because it was just dropping all the events that it was not showing. It was dropping them and not saving the data about it. So yeah, I think I got a driver bug here. But yeah, so 116 events over 3 days. So this is a really, really great way to do long-running traces using Process Monitor. Oh, there were so many other things I wanted to talk about, and it's almost 9 o'clock, apparently. Last chance to get any questions in or anything you want to see. Anybody want to see SIG check? Anybody want to see access check? Oh, God, I have to do this. I have to do this. OK. The theme park is really not that, it's not worth it. You laugh now. Wait till you see it. So how many of you, were any of you in the talk that Chris Jackson and I did about application whitelisting earlier today? Yeah, I didn't think there'd be many people who'd see me and then come back and see me again. A couple weird exceptions here. So one of the things I did was show how do you identify user-writable directories under the Windows directory. So this is about whitelisting. We want to block out access or block execution from places that users are allowed to execute from, or to create files in. We don't want them creating files, like downloading files, dropping them somewhere, and then running them. So the Windows directory, by default, has a bunch of user-writable subdirectories. So we want to, when we are doing the whitelisting using AppLocker, Device Guard, whatever, we want to block access to those locations. And so, presenting, see. So here's a script. Enumeratable DIRs, C. Someone's trying to tell me it's time to go. So it's enumerating user-writable directories. And the way it does that, let's bring up another PowerShell here. Is it's using a tool, a Sysinternals tool called access check. And it's running this command line, which is outputting, I'll just walk through this very, very quickly. Access check, accept the EULA because, you know, the lawyers. No banner means don't output any of the copyright and banner and stuff like that. -W says show only permissions involving write access, show only directories, recurse the subdirectories, and then filter out anything belonging to these particular accounts. The output ends up being this. So these are all the user-writable subdirectories. And when I say user-writable, I don't mean it looks for users, authenticated users, things like that. It does the opposite. It filters out admins, system, trusted installer, etc. And that's what the -F does. It says filter out these things. And so I build a list of SIDs and account names that I don't want to show up. And then I post-process the data. So very, very quickly, I hope I can do this really, really quickly. I'm going to go into ctemp and do access check. If I do just access check write permissions, actually, wait, do I want to do it here? Yeah, I have to. Okay, so these are the write permissions. If I do it normally, it'll just show the effective permissions. And you can see here, built-in users, read permission, some read permission, then authenticated users gets read write. By adding the -W, it filters out anything that's just granted that. So that, and then filter out administrators, system. Now it's down to, so I filter out all the stuff that I'm not interested, that I know I'm not interested. I'm not interested in access granted to admins or system or anything like that. And I post-process that and end up with a result that you saw. So that's using access check, which is a Sysinternals tool, which I use regularly. And then there's some other options that they can do. I will post this script to my blog, which was listed on the title page. I'll have that up there sometime soon, because I think this is worth putting out there right away. So over time, so only 3 more tools to go through before I let you go. Kidding. Okay, so I hope I see you at the party tonight. I'll be the one wearing the West Ham United English football jersey that says Voldemort on the back. And thank you very much for coming. I hope it satisfied everyone here. Have a great rest of your night, and see you at the party.